Hello, hello, hello. Hopefully my sound is coming in okay and I don't sound like a robot or something really strange. Hmm. Could someone in the chat let me know if the volume is okay and actually if you can hear me clearly at all? Um, What an absolute afternoon. My internet's been going like all over the place. Very funny, Craven. I am not muted. Like I'm looking at it. It's not muted. Thank you. Look at the trees. And hey, hey, Shill. Hey, Shill. Thanks for the orders. You can't hear anything? Plug in your damn headphones, Craven, and leave me be, you wisecracker. Like, I'm gonna make a special room for you. Hey, Liam and Mippet. Thank you both for being here. Oh, somebody timed you out. Oh, okay, Crave. Hello, you are Victoria. Welcome. All right. Since I started so late, I guess I should start. Like, hey, yeah. hmm, maybe that was funny. I hope Craven has a sense of humor. You didn't time him out too long, did you? Just send him to his room for a little bit. He needs a spanking. That's what you get when you pick on the creator. They mute you. Like, I've got some feisty mods. Yeah. Hello, Demon Herb. Orb. I'm sorry. Did I say herb? I didn't mean that. It's been a tough afternoon. All right. Thank you all for being very patient. I am now going to unpin this other message so that I can actually put in your bingo cards because I didn't do that yet. I was leaving that message up for everybody that came in. Let's just get to that and then we'll get to our very interesting topics for tonight. I'm sure that if anybody saw the thumbnail, you kind of know who we're gonna be speaking about. We're definitely going to be covering the new stuff in regards to Andrew Tate, and there's a little bit of news going on with Karen Reed too, and we're going to cover both of them today. And Liam, thanks. I'm glad you liked my thumbnail. Let me just bring. Let me just add this to the stage. There you go. So I know, like the way it was, it looks like Karen's interviewing them. Well, believe me, she didn't want to hear what he had to say. Like he was pretty loud, and very aggravated in regards to what's going on over there. So let's see. As long as the volume's okay, no static. Yes, I meant to say orb, but welcome, welcome. It's good to see everybody. And it's not a Monday, thank goodness. Although it kind of felt like it with the internet problems. I'm sure everybody knows what that's like. Like you can see your meter, and you're all green and ready to go, and all of a sudden it's like yellow, and you know you're going to sound like a robot, and you know that your presentations are going to fail. Nothing's going to work. It's going to be one big tech problem, you know. So I just tried to avoid that by waiting a little bit, and they did come through. They had said it would be an hour, and it did come through within 45 minutes, so that's good. And yeah, Fish Nerd, look at that. I had enough extra time to get my wits about me and managed to push that damn button on the banner. Look at that. But I'm glad you're here. I am. Okay, so fishes. All right. So you guys have a preference of which one to start with? I figured I have it kind of set up to start with Tate, if that's okay with you, because there's actually the most to catch up on there, and I think that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do Tate first, and in order to do Tate first, I'm gonna need to bring this down, and I'm going to bring up. Okay, I'll bring up something else when it's time. Well, for right now, I just want to bring you up to date a little bit on Andrew Tate. In case you didn't travel across Twitter in the last few days or any other social media platform, there has been new charges placed against Andrew and Tristan Tate and four other individuals, two from the first filing, that would be Nadia and Georgina, their partners in Romania, and two other gentlemen. This has been rumored since July of June, actually, of 2023. Tate put out a statement that there was further investigation going on, that we had heard rumors of some witness intimidation, human trafficking, and also these charges are directly related to relations with a minor. So, trigger warning, this is not pleasant stuff. None of the cases against Andrew Tate involve much pleasantries. Okay. Well, we're going to be fair. We're going to give you his statement, and we're also going to talk in towards the end. We're going to talk about his lawsuit in Florida for defamation against some accusers also. Okay. You did get updated on my Discord, didn't you, Liam? Yes, we did try to keep all that Twitter stuff going on. Like, I hope that doesn't bother too many people, but it's kind of a way of taking notes for me. Like, I take massive amounts of notes with the new pen I got, that actually I can write on a tablet and it makes a document for me. Okay. And then I can take parts of that document and actually put them in presentations for the things. It's like the best gift I ever received. And um I really do appreciate it. But I use it mostly off screen lately than I do on. But anyway, let's get to it. First of all, he was arrested last week, Wednesday, Tuesday night, Wednesday. There was a lot of speculation that they had a party the night before, and so the Tates weren't letting anybody in, and they actually had to break in through the roof. There was a lot of stuff going on. I mean, if you ever see the pictures of the compound that they had to get into, they actually have a security guard entrance for that compound there, which is where you see mostly when they're taking video of anybody outside. You see Andrew Tate coming and going through there, or the police coming and going through there, right through their security guard entrance. Very professional, very well done. It's like a actual compound, that warehouse, you know. What do you mean? I'm glad everything's okay in the chat. That makes me feel better. All right. So now that we know that the charges, we know that the charges were finally, the additional charges were actually filed against Andrew and Tristan Tate. I would like to play first Andrew Tate's statement as they left Bucharest, the Bucharest police station right near their compound, which is the one that they're tied to, after they had been held for about 6 to 8 hours, and for investigative discussion, hearing, and actually for the judge to actually look at everything and decide how they would be held, because they were arrested, okay, and brought in. And so now, let me just play this. The results of that were that Andrew and the two women, I believe, are placed under house arrests, but actually Tristan is on judicial control the way he was before. The only one that's under house arrest is Andrew, that I'm aware of right now. I think judicial control for everybody else. The two gentlemen, I have not heard explicitly what their confinement would be. Most of the news is only really reported on the Tate brothers. Okay, so let me just add this. This was Andrew and Tristan when they were released. Let me see if I could get this a little bit bigger. Is it going to be bigger? No, it doesn't really make that part bigger, does it? It just makes that bigger. No, I don't like that. Okay. Sorry, that's not going to make that much bigger, but you'll be able to hear in the anger. There's a lot of anger here, and I don't mean it. It's a little bit long, but I want to play the whole thing in fairness to the Tates, because, you know, he's making a statement and he has his right to be heard also. Okay. He's a bit furious. Okay, then here we go. I think I got the volume all the way up. Let's go.
Listen to me. I moved to Romania 10 years ago. And I found an amazing country full of beautiful people. And I told the whole world about Romania. If you mention the name Romania anywhere in the world, they'll say, Andrew Tate lives there, Andrew Tate lives there. I've done nothing but promote this country. I've done nothing but say fantastic things about Romania endlessly. And when I did this, people would say to me, if Romania is so nice, if it's so safe, it's so beautiful, why has it got such a bad reputation? And I said, well, there's probably a few bad actors, a few bad people who destroyed the entire reputation. Like the few fools at DCOT who just came along and told us that the mothers of our children are somehow human trafficked. I've been nice. I've been patient. I've played the game. I've respected the judiciary. I've gone to every appointment on time. But they bust in my house again. And now have come along saying there's 35 victims. You know, all 30 of those girls, 30 of them have statements in our defense. 30 saying we've done absolutely nothing wrong. Two more are the mothers of our children. And 2 more have never even been to Romania. I've never even been here. They just found random girls we knew in other countries and made them sign pieces of paper. This is a setup. It's absolutely disgusting. Fair play to that judge who saw through the bullshit and let us free. Okay. And also, one more thing. The media is complicit. All of you are. When they first threw us in fucking jail, when they first put us in there, you're all running around saying human trafficker. None of you said, where's the evidence? Where's the proof? Where's the pictures? Where's the videos? None. 3 years later, they do the same fucking bullshit. And you're all sitting there going, human trafficking. I'm not a human trafficker, clearly. If you human traffic someone, there is evidence. This is a setup. It's a stitch up. The 3 prosecutors at DCAT in my house, I said, why are you here? There's no case. They said, there's a case if we make one. This is a fucking setup. All of it is. And listen, quiet. I'm not talking to you, sir. Be quiet. Be quiet. Be quiet. This is a setup. It is done on purpose, and it is designed to come up with the most heinous possible crimes to slander our name. And every single Romanian citizen should be disgusted that they are spending millions of euros wasting their time trying to put innocent men in jail instead of fixing the roads, fixing the hospitals, fixing this country. You have a beautiful country full of beautiful people, and 3 idiots at DCAT have fucked everything. As for money laundering, sure, I'll approach that. Money laundering, no problem. Supposedly, we're money launderers because we buy luxury goods and we try and hide that we buy luxury goods for other people and hide our money. If you buy your girlfriend a handbag in Romania, they charge you with fucking money laundering. This is disgusting. Disgusting. We have children. This is disgusting. Thank you.
Okay. And so, well, I do want to get, I don't really blame him for being angry because, I mean, he did just have a great party the night before. Everything's kind of been ruined with everything they talked about a year, him still being under investigation. But although he does have his right to say what he wants, he's going to have to expect a little bit of pushback, especially from me, when it comes to some of the things that he said. Okay, first of all, the first charges have gone through judicial review, a lengthy judicial review. We've been reporting on these for over a year, well over a year. And they've gone through all the appeals. They've gone through all the appeals. The Tate brothers, their lawyers, and the other 2 women have appealed egregiously, often, at every turn, and have been stymied by the judicial review, not DCAT. Okay? DCAT is the investigation unit. The prosecutors are someone else. And the judicial review is above all of that. The Romanian system is quite complicated, and it is a lengthy process. But as we know, in the first case, which, as he called out to the media, hey, nobody's asking for the evidence. He clearly forgets about all the evidence in case number 1, right? Exactly. Not once have they come up with a defense. Now, some of the things that he says are true, okay? That last part he threw in there about 2 of the women never have been in Romania, that is because of other charges of what happened in the UK. A Moldavian and an actual Florida resident who met him there, and he tried to convince them to go to Romania, using the lover boy tactic, and they tried to file charges on him a long time ago, and nothing was done in the UK. And he's specifically speaking about those two women, and I know he is because they are part of a civil lawsuit that he started in Florida against them. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. The other one, he talks about the mother of his child, and also Tristan. Yes, it's true. They are listed as the victims, and they will not give victim statements because they say that they're not going to go against the fathers of their children. However, I'm sure if you're from the United States or the UK, you know that if you have sex with an underage person, you don't need that underage person's permission to file charges for a criminal offense. The court does not need the mother of the children. And apparently, according to the charges, Andrew Tate began his relationship with the mother of his child while she was only 15. And they have documented that he had her working on camera before her legal age and earned money off of what she did before her legal age. And that is where some of these charges, as regards to the minor, are coming from. And unfortunately, they do not need a statement from her to prove any of that. It is still illegal, whether or not she thinks it's okay. He says he's got 30 statements from these women. He has statements that he forces people to sign before they do this stuff with this online OnlyFans type situation where he is making money off of them. And his agreement with those women has nothing to do on whether or not it's illegal. Let's just clarify that. It's not that what Andrew Tate is saying is untrue. It's that he's skewing it to disregard the fact that regardless of what he says, laws were broken. Yes, they are accusing him of organized crime because he did. Because he had up to 34 women locked up, not able to go anywhere else, took their passports, brought them all over using lover boy techniques, promising them relationships. They have documented text messages between Andrew, Tristan, and the other two women on how they would enforce control over these women, saying they should be hit, saying they should be denied things, they should be emotionally tortured, all kinds of things. I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds of text messages in those documents from the first case that they took their time to try to prove the minor's case and the additional women. The first case, if you'll remember, included 7 known victims. This next case includes the rest of them, 30, up to 35 in total between all of these two cases. There's some overlap in the first case into the second case when it comes to all of this. And if they're not serious, that he's going to say that they're only after him, then why in the organized crime part, in the human trafficking part, and the illegal got of gains off of an older person's back, so to speak, are 2 other gentlemen now mentioned and charged, along with their other original defendants from the first charges. Okay, so I will say that some of what Andrew says is true. It's possible that those 30 women have some kind of statement on file saying that they earned money. But the court is saying they can prove that the women didn't get the money, that the money went to Andrew and Tristan first, to the organization first, and that the women were unfairly paid and not given their share and violated against that way. Also, they can show that they did not file or claim this money that they were making. They want the women to pay the taxes on it. But unfortunately, when they get the money first and they don't give all the money to the women, then there would be like reasonably amount of money that it was not claimed, that was hidden. And I assure you, the court is not pressing charges on Andrew Tate for buying his girlfriend a fancy purse. All of that allegation is coming up because when they tried to get the vehicles back, they were showing them that they were in all other people's names. Although those other people never drove those cars or had possession of those cars, they were all in Andrew Tate's garage. They were hiding assets. I mean, you could look at it two ways. I bought a gift for Mary Lou. I never really gave her the keys, but it's in her name, so it's a gift. Descartes says, no, that's not a gift. That is hiding an asset. That is buying things to have value with money you don't want to claim. That's money laundering. You know? Hey, let me just check the chat real quick. I've got more. I've got so much birth certificates and a calendar are enough evidence, but he wants the world to believe he is being persecuted. Yes, it's the Matrix. Didn't you know? Yes, Mrs. Cassandra. 15. And Tristan, I don't know. Did anybody notice Tristan's deer in the headlight look? Now, Andrew is mad because he sees what's happening, and he also sees that he's not able to turn the public the way he could before. He doesn't have the standing he once had. People are starting to notice and pull away, including his close friends and associates, are starting to see that it's kind of bad news to be associated with him right now. So he's losing media. He's losing his empire. Yes, he still has a huge following. I don't doubt it because let me tell you, just from doing these streams or sharing the posts on Twitter, I get plenty of them that want to follow me and call me names and trash me out. You know, not as much as some of the bigger ones get, like Murder by Crayons or Agent Arabic or even Milk Bar TV or some of the others that are on Twitter sharing the information right from Romania. There's a Romanian journalist that we follow. They get abused constantly by the hundreds of accounts that attack them. And I wouldn't say that they're all bots. I would say a good portion of them are people that just don't want to believe that Andrew Tate is guilty of anything. You know, exactly. Yeah. He is persecuting the world with his existence. Juju is unbiased as I try to be. Everybody knows I'm no Andrew Tate fan because before the charges even happened, before it became a legal issue for me to follow, I was not a fan of his because I truly believe that although he offers this whole great story for young men trying to fit in today's society with all of the pressures that they have, and it's tough out there all over the world, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend that it's not. And there was actually a niche for it, but what he did was make money off them and then leave them hanging and tell them there's no way they could ever be him, and they might as well just off themselves, because basically that's the result of his whole program. They can't actually achieve what he says, and he actually calls you a loser if you don't get to where he is. Okay. I don't think he's good for the mental health of these young men. I believe in empowering men to be able to get through in society. I don't think that they are weak if they need assistance with mental health. I don't think it's weak to talk about the pressures that society has put on them. I don't consider that weak at all, but Andrew Tate does. But then again, in Andrew Tate's world, I don't have an opinion, do I? Because I'm just to be used and abused. And I got to kiss his ass if I get anywhere because I should actually just agree with every damn thing he says because, he be the alpha dog. Now, I'll agree with that statement partly. He's a dog. He damn well is a dog, but he no alpha. Okay. That's an oxymoron when it comes to Andrew Tate. But he's a dog. Definitely. In the way that he treats people in general. He doesn't even treat men with any kind of respect. Okay. Let alone what he does to the women in his life. And to actually be called out for that is something that's been a long time coming. So yeah. I do think he is actually persecuting us. Mm. Liam says he thinks he is so smart, but it comes down to not having scruples and trying to game the system. Exactly. I have actually spoke on his what I would call his MLM, his pyramid scam. It is actually quite clever that you have to pay for actual his one-on-one lessons in this and for his program, and actually part of that is you promoting it, you making the videos on it, you doing the esteems, you actually out there. So actually he didn't get much taken down, did he, in regards to his social media? It was actually quite genius because he has everybody out there selling the program for him. To be part of the program, you sell the program. It was genius. Mm. If he's so smart. Well, yes, some of the smartest people I know are actually stupid in the end, aren't they? Actually, Juju. How did he get in this legal mess? Because he's a freaking idiot. Because he figured that women that he gets in total control would never turn on him. But he forgets the law doesn't need the statement of the women if they know certain laws are broken. And once everything started to go in place, less women were satisfied with actually what was going on. Remember, they had to keep them all separate because if they kept them all together, they might start organizing. I mean, there's a reason they took their passports, right? If you don't have serious lawsuits against and discuss the majority of the people on the planet, then you're a loser. I have no time for tea. I know. I know, Juju. This is going to be a very distasteful episode for you. Yes, this is a calming thought, Juju, that he is actually probably got incredibly low self-esteem and feels rather sad and lonely the majority of the time. Yeah. And yup, Craven, doesn't that sound exactly like an MLM to me? It does to me too. It does to me too. But let's carry on with some of the things that are going on in the case. Let's bring some more. Okay. So the brothers were remanded in custody last week for 6 hours. Okay. By the Directorate of Investigating Organized Crime and Terrorism in Romania. That's what DCOT stands for. That is the investigative unit, a special crime unit for those that are avoiding paying taxes, organizing crime in Romania, in human trafficking. This organization has a very good success rate of being an incredible investigation in trying to deal with a serious problem that Romania actually acknowledged they had for quite some time. Okay. Andrew Tate wasn't always in Romania. Okay? He was not always in Romania. All right? He was in the UK. And he was here. But he went to Romania. And I ask you why? They already had an issue. Okay? And he actually thought he would be free to conduct his business accordingly. Okay? They searched not only the compound in Bucharest, but also several homes in Ilfov County, which is a little bit farther away. So they're also DCOT is actually working with the actual investigative unit of crime in Ilfov County. Also, they searched all of these, and they were detained, and also their associates, Alex Stanciu, Alex Donier, Georgiana Nagel, and Luana Radu. I said Nadia before. That's because I always mix up her last name. It's Luana, not Nadia. Well, Georgiana and Luana are also charged in the original indictment against them. That is going to trial. It actually has going to trial. Now that they have been actually brought in and charged, they have 60 days for the judge to decide if there's enough evidence to back up those charges to go through the Romanian legal system in regards of trial and extra. And we've been here before. That's what happened last year, or even more than a year ago. And it does take a while. Now that there are two cases, it will be years before he's free from Romania, if he even is not found guilty. He still will be years before this is resolved. Okay. Now, DCOT has said that the new probe related to the alleged trafficking of minors, as I said, human trafficking, actual having intercourse with a minor, influencing witnesses, and money laundering. Now, this is the problem. Influencing witnesses, that act, it is rumored, although I have to wait to see actually what happens when they get the trial, could be the reason that Andrew Tate is under house arrest, because he was under judicial control before. And according to his lawyers, they have obeyed everything with judicial control. And so they should not have to be put with the new charges, as horrible as they are, could not be put under the new under house arrest again, or arrested and held in prison, which they could. And that is actually what the prosecution is asking for. Because if they actually did do anything to influence witnesses in any way while the first charges were in place, that is a violation of judicial control. That is not complying with court orders. That's an interference of the process. And if you commit a crime of such nature during the process, well, you could end up back in prison. Now, you know, they were there for months, and I know they don't want to go back, which is why I think Andrew Tate is so angry. And this is why Tristan looked like a deer in headlights when they got out of there, because that's the reality of it. That influencing witnesses, the intimidation, influencing of witnesses involved in the first case of any means, is a violation of what was going on and could mean staying in prison until trial. And they have learned from experience that trial is going to be a far way away. And no one wants to stay in there that long. Yeah. Anyway, the prosecutor said the new file had over 30 nixes making allegations against the Tates, even though Tate will actually counter that, as you heard, and say they will give him statements that he did nothing wrong. If he did nothing wrong, and that's their statement, how are there allegations against the Tates from victims? Maybe they're talking about the different 30 people. All of these crimes that are listed in the new charges dated between 2014 and 2024. Yes, 2024, after the original charges, after a case was already made against him, after he was already arrested, both of them, all of them, after they were already arrested. 2024, some of the offenses happened. DCOT said the defendants used their lover boy method to exploit 34 vulnerable victims who were forced to produce pornographic material for the online, and that more than 2.8 million, that's 2.5 million euros, it generated was kept by the defendants, the Tate brothers, not the women. So while he's saying Romanian people stand up and complain that your streets aren't getting fixed, it's because you didn't pay taxes on $2.8 million. Dude, double-edged sword. Like I said, some of what he said is true, but only in a certain light. Only in a certain light, you know? They're accused of running an organized criminal group for the purpose of recruitment, lodging, and exploitation by forcing women to create materials with pornographic content intended for distribution for fee. And of course, this is allegedly, these are new charges, and the Tate brothers deny all of the allegations. You heard them themselves. They didn't do anything. And it's fair to keep saying that they have not been convicted of anything to date. They have not. But there is the UK civil suit. Okay. And the reason that now people are saying, all right, before I go to that, okay, I want to give you a few other things first. All right. In regards to these charges, here is a Twitter feed from Agent Arvid. Okay, and I'll actually bring it up, but that's there for you guys for your actual record. Trying to keep everything straight is like crazy. Okay. Agent Arvid is an account on Twitter that says he's related to DCOT, but he's really not. Although Andrew Tate has used it in several of his statements lately on Twitter and elsewhere by others to say that Decott is actually over here in America and on Twitter and everything, making false allegations and all. Like this account, I do not believe is an agent at all. What they do is they actually follow some of the same accounts I do. They're in contact with people in Romania, the journalists and etc., and they get the information that way. They do get very good translated documents in Romania, the official documents. So I do think that they have some pretty good connections there. But the way that they advertise that they're a Decott special agent number 69, I really think that that might be a joke. So I tell you to take it with a grain of salt, so to speak, not to believe too much. I'm not going to say that they're an agent. It's not been proven to me. However, their information, once checked, it comes out there quick, and then I wait, and we check it. There's usually 3 or 4 different sources that can back it all up. So I would say pretty much they've got the general gist of what's going on there. But I will tell you that they are definitely biased against the Tates. They don't think they're innocent. They never put anything out in regards to the defense of the claims. But here they're going to talk about there being 49 actual victims. Okay, what they say, there are across all of the criminal and civil cases, because there is a civil case here in the UK. That there is a Andrew and Tristan Tate criminal cases total 45 victims, and then you add the 4 victims in the civil case. The civil case itself is sexual assault without consent. We know what that means. A physical assault, and that there were 4 alleged victims that got together to press those charges in the UK. We saw fundraisers for it. We also know that that UK civil suit was put forward because they felt that the UK government was not listening to them, that they investigated and they did not bring any charges. So the next thing to do was to start a civil suit. Mostly, they do admit, to get the attention on what the Tate brothers were doing. Okay. Andrew and Tristan Tate together, their total criminal cases have an alleged 45 victims, okay, for human trafficking, including 1 minor for human trafficking who was only 17. Intercourse without consent of at least 2 victims. Sexual assault, at least 1 alleged victim. Intercourse with a minor, whether consensual or not, of the age 15, and instigating assault against another alleged victim. And that is coming from a lot of the text messages and charges that they saw. The criminal case in Romania that they were indicted for under Andrew, he is indicted for forming an organized criminal group, human trafficking, and intercourse without consent. Tristan, forming an organized criminal group, human trafficking, and instigating assault. Those are all from case number 1. The new charges are under Andrew and Tristan, forming an organized criminal group, human trafficking of 34 alleged victims, witness tampering, and money laundering. And Andrew Tate specifically has additional charges of intercourse with a minor, 15 years old, who Andrew claims is the mother of his children. Trafficking minors, 1 alleged victim who was 17 years old, who could be Tristan's baby mama or not, but she also was underage. And they're saying that she was human trafficked to perform these services in Romania at an illegal age. In Britain, the criminal case that's under investigation, that back in May, Romania approved extradition orders for the arrest warrant for Andrew and Tristan Tate to face 2 charges of intercourse without consent, sexual assault, 6 counts at least, and human trafficking of at least 3 alleged victims. They will have to face those charges when and if they ever get to leave Romania. They will be extradited once they leave judicial custody of Romania. Okay. They also, that was against both, okay, but in a civil case that I was telling you about, all of those, the civil case charges, although Tristan is mentioned, it's all on Andrew for intercourse without consent, sexual and physical assaults of at least 4 victims. Okay. There is also another suit brought by the police that we're going to hear the verdict on in September, because they didn't need them present to file these charges, because it's for tax evasion of at least $21 million in revenue. Not dollars. That looks like euros or lira. Okay. And also there is rumored to be a U.S. federal criminal investigation that is not being publicly talked about. But we have put up before the allegations of some of the women that were from America or were contacted while they were here, and that these minor allegations of being underage, again, here in America, they don't need the permission of the actual victims to file charges, especially if there's numerous cases of it and human trafficking is involved. It's a serious issue here in America too, and we don't have any clear indication on what actually they're drilling down on Andrew Tate for here, except for organizing and not paying actual taxes on money, possibly in regards to the influencer part, to where he's using the MLN. Who knows? It could be anything. Crazier things have happened here in America, right? But currently, absolutely no charges against him in America. Now, the other and I hate to keep bringing these from Twitter, but what happens is, like, the information comes through Twitter from Romania. Okay. And actually, they just been like, here is actually the statement that was made. This is, it actually lists the it gives you the actual what was said in Romanian in the large article, but basically they just drilled it down for everybody, that Decode has released a statement, okay, and it's pretty long. Okay, this comes right from DIC, right from DCOT, okay, on August 21st, the prosecutors of DCOT central structure ordered the detention of 6 defendants for committing the crimes of forming an organized criminal group, trafficking in persons, trafficking in minors, sexual intercourse with a minor, money laundering, influencing statements, and favoring the perpetrator. From the criminal investigation documents carried out, it emerged that during 2015, 3 defendants, 2 of them foreign citizens, constituted an organized criminal group on the territory of Romania, to which a suspect, a foreign citizen, joined in 2016. And in September 2021, another defendant, a Romanian citizen, who acted with the aim of committing the crime of human trafficking both on the territory of Romania and of other states. Now, here's where the other 2 gentlemen are mentioned in, okay? 3 defendants, 2 of them foreign citizens. The Tates are not citizens. One of the others is, okay? Georgiana and Luana are citizens of Romania. Okay. But apparently only one of the gentlemen that was charged is a citizen. Okay. 2 of the defendants using the lover boy method. Mostly when they talk about the lover boy method, they are talking in regards to the method that the Tate brothers have both actually admitted on tape through the actual services that they sell through their whole Big Daddy whatever organization they got going on there. They call it the lover boy technique themselves, and it is a way to coerce someone to feel that they're in a relationship with you, bring them over, they're the one and only, this is what you have to do to get me if you want me, and then not tell them they're part of a harem of 34 other people who are doing the same thing. Short part of that. But Two of the defendants using the Loverboy method and taking advantage of the obvious state of vulnerability of 34 injured persons recruited them, and with the support of the other members of the organized crime group, transported and housed them in different locations where they supervised them and coordinated by forcing them to produce pornographic materials that they later broadcast for a fee on profile platforms. The proceeds thus obtained by the defendants from these exploitations of the victims were valued at over 2,800,000 US dollars and 887,000 tokens. Okay, and it goes on. And I'm going, did I actually? I think I actually did already put that in the chat. And I will add it to the description list later for you guys too. Okay, but that's actually right from Decal. And the reason that I put that there is to let you know I'm not just going by what some randoms say on Twitter. Like, I'm actually trying to get all of the information that I can in regards to the case. But I don't read Romanian. And I have tried to translate some of the documents, and I can tell you that they do a really good job. When they do the translations, I have not found where they've added anything or removed anything. So I think, you can trust some of it, but like I always say, don't, you can always double check. Just don't take anybody's word for it. Okay. So back to the UK civil suit that was mentioned before. 4 British women say they suffered serious physical. The women are pursuing this civil case for physical injury, psychiatric harm. They claim they were subjected to serious abuse, included multiple assaults without consent, serious physical assaults, including strangulations and coercive and controlling behavior when Andrew Tate was living in the UK decades ago. And the UK didn't prosecute. The women all went in there. The UK didn't prosecute. They have now started another investigation, and Andrew Tate has made venomous statements declaring that that's just fraud because they never decided to do anything before. They were cleared. They never brought charges. This should be a statute of limitations type thing. When you've got multiple victims, sometimes statutes of limitations, there are loopholes in those laws. There are here in America. When you have more than one victim or it's a pattern, sometimes statutes of limitations can be leaned and you get additional time. So, I don't know in the UK exactly under what precedent they are able to press charges for something that happened a long time ago, unless they are actually thinking that more happened after, and they're hoping the investigation will actually come forward and bring other victims that fall more within the statute of limitations. But these women have filed a civil suit against him, and that still is progressing. It was not tossed out of court. It can proceed. Okay. Tate's Florida suit, though, had some issues. Okay. Now, the latest on this one, and I'm going to give you an article on this one too, because it is a good read. A lot of people are unaware of this actual suit. But Tate actually filed against a few people, 2 women and one of the women's parents in Florida, claiming defamation, interference with his business making opportunities, defamation, libel, all kinds of stuff. Okay. And basically the judge threw a lot of it out. Okay. He definitely threw out the one against the one woman because she's not a resident of the United States or Florida. She's a Moldavian citizen, and everything happened over in the UK in regards to her. So that was just out. He said, sorry, Andrew, you cannot press charges here. You cannot try to file a civil suit here in Florida against that person, even though that person was indicated to work with the first person in actually organizing to extort money from Andrew Tate so they could get away. Okay. Or that's what the women say, that they actually made a plan to try to get away by, trying to get money out of him so that they could go away. Andrew says, no, that was extortion because they were going to frame him for all of these charges. Okay. The charge against the woman who did the text messaging and actually he says defamed her the most and actually is making these accusations. He actually tried to say that she was the reason that Romania actually is interfering with him. And he's trying to blame all of that on these two women. Okay. The judge says no. Romania had to have other things besides her statement to go by. So whether or not this is like, you can prove that it's not true, what she's saying that you did to her, she had every right to talk to the Romanian government about it. And that is also why the judge came forward in, let me just see if I can this judge's name. Because he was pretty good, because he's trying to be as fair as possible. He's in Palm Beach County, and his name is Judge Joseph Curley. So Judge Curley said, you can't prosecute the woman's parents for believing her story about what you did to her and actually reporting it to officials. We're sorry that messed up your life, but they had every right to report something they thought was wrong. And you can't actually, they didn't come out and make Twitter posts about it. All they did was go to a legal official and report it. And that is their right. Okay. That's not defamation. That's not interfering with your public business or anything. But anyway, he says because they did all of this, he being Andrew, he's claiming that they interfered with his business and that he had serious repercussions and he wants the money back from all of them. And the judge was like, no, that part's out. You want to go after her for the things she said about you that you said aren't true, fine. You're going to be able to, you prove they're not true. Although it's going to be hard to prove that none of it's true when you're under investigation in Romania and actually charged in Romania for all the stuff that she said. Now, granted, let's be a little fair here. It might not be true in her case. It's just as likely that she's using this to get some money out of Andrew Tate, which is what he claims. But it's going to be up to the Florida court to actually figure that out. And both sides will be able to proceed. But he only gets to sue the girl making the statements against him, not anybody else that she involved, nor her parents. All of that's been tossed. And he only gets to go forward with false accusations for that he did not assault her in any way, period. So both sides are saying that that is a win for them. Okay. And in a way, I guess it is. Wouldn't you agree? Like it could very well be a win for both sides on in that light, right? Yeah. Oh, Tate's Florida case. I have one more about Tate. No, I think that's just about it. Let me just see what I had left on here. So that was Tate's Florida suit. And then we're up to Karen Reed. So there, I'm going to leave it on Tate. Okay, but what I'll do is I'll check the chat first for questions in regards to Tate, because there's got to be something. Okay, victims not going to the police because they have been convinced that they are either worthless or would be in more physical danger does happen. Exactly. When they talk about vulnerable state, I do agree with that. And I think that there are plenty of loopholes now put into, well, I call them a loophole, but let's call them exclusions or exceptions to the rigid standings of statutes of limitations. There are exceptions to all of these rules for situations. If you can prove you're under mental duress, if you were under treatment, and then you couldn't do anything about this because of your fragile state, that here in America, that does extend it in some states. Okay, the time that you can to follow, and you are allowed to petition the court for permission to file the charges. We've got plenty of states who have made 1-year gaps for adult victims of things that happened a long time ago. And we have seen successful prosecution of some people who attacked people 20 years ago or more, and they have been prosecuted. And E. Jean Carroll was one of the successful prosecutions of Trump in regards to her assault. That was a long time ago. Well, she was able during this window that was put in by the state of New York. It has to be jurisdiction. It has to be where it happened. But she was able to prosecute. And some people don't think that should happen, but I think it's a fine balance between a victim and a perpetrator. Okay. And yes, they both have rights. in a legal system, and that's only fair, right? But I think I am happy to say that there are some exclusions, and to see that some of that has come forward for people that really needed the additional time or to file, you know. Let's just see. Oh, wait. Yeah, the Saudis who were going to buy 6 blondes from him pulled out of the deal. That's how his business was affected. Yes, because like they were too, like they would actually talk, right? They would actually fight back. Yeah, I get it. But yeah, he was actually saying, because a lot of his business is based on reputation. He's built his empire on being this guy, right? And if you actually soil the reputation of this alpha dog persona, that can affect his business. I mean, I guess, right? Yeah, I know. I'm being snarky. I'll stop. Yeah, it's time. It's time to move to Karen Reed. Hey, Mousy. And hey, dog. It's nice to see you. You're in the UK? Yeah. Maybe if you could you find me anything on the statute of limitations? That would be great. I'm researching now. I am. Yeah, I am definitely, dog. I'm glad to see you. I hope you're well. You know. Hmm. What is this one here? Let's see. Here it is. Anyone who is sick of people getting rich off the backs of the people who just need help should be biased against hate. Exactly. You know. And Juju says, it makes me so sad they do this to people, the women, the people that follow them, everyone. I find it heartbreaking for so many reasons. I also, Juju, it is very upsetting to see the influence in the damage that gets done. And the reason I started actually following what Andrew Tate was doing and started looking into his practice, this business that he says he has, not so much the pornographic stuff, but this MLN of influence of young men, was because of the damage that was being done. Now, I understand why something like that was necessary to counterbalance what was happening on the other end, which I call the failed Me Too movement, which did give a voice to victims, but then got converted into a man-bashing vehicle for legal prosecution and ruining of reputations in public whenever we can. That was a mouthful. But yeah, that's where I am with that. I'm all for equality on both sides, and I do want to believe victims. I do. But I do think that the way it happens here and in some other places where someone is prosecuted in the media first, ruin their lives, and you can't take it back. Well, you cannot take it back, even when you are found innocent. It does not come back. Okay. There are other countries that don't allow that to happen. And I have always advocated that I think that's the proper way. That doesn't mean that victims don't get a voice. It just means that not the victim's name or the accuser's name is public until the trial and the convictions happen. Then let's let all that dirty laundry out, and let's just ruin their reputations however you want. There's a time and a place, okay? And I know that sounds a little harsh, but that's actually where I am, you know? That's actually where I am. Hey, Randy. Hey, KCA. It's good to see you. It's good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Mm. All right. So here we go. Let's talk about Karen Reed. Okay. Now, I have some things for you on Karen Reed. First, well, there is definitely is an article from the Washington Post. The O'Keefe family, Paul O'Keefe, brother of John O'Keefe. Okay, first of all, anybody who doesn't know who Karen Reed is, she's being accused of murdering her boyfriend, or maybe not murdering, but actually causing the death in some way of her boyfriend on a snowy night in December or January, whatever. It was it was winter. My God, how I can't remember the date is just, I cannot remember the date. It's been a while. We had a trial. It's going for another retrial because the jury was deadlocked on the charges. There was actually motions by the defense to say that the jury was going to acquit her on 2 of the charges, but like then the judge ruled, well, they never actually did because they had the jury verdict form and they never put not guilty on those charges, nor did they approach the court in any way to ask what to do about that if they did agree. So they did not follow the actual process that needed to be done. That's unfortunate. The defense had every right to file a motion to thing if the jury is actually saying that. But actually, there's a retrial scheduled anyway for January 27th. But what the defense was requesting was that the 2 charges that they would have acquitted her on just be dropped. But there was no formal acquittal on those charges. So legally, that's kind of impossible to do. Because even if they bring the jury in to say, what would you have done? The fact of the matter is, during the jury process and during the trial, they didn't do it. They didn't ask what to do. They didn't ask for additional information. They didn't query, nor did the defense or the state ask for the jury to be queried when they came back deadlocked on one of the charges. But they didn't fill in the other ones. The process was not served, so really the judges, as much as people are going against the judge for her not dropping those charges, how is she going to when legal process did not happen? There was a vehicle for them to actually do that, and they didn't. And if they were confused about the process, there is a means for them to question and query and get the answers that they need. And unfortunately, the jury didn't do that either. So actually, the way I see it, her hands were tied. This is what following the legal statutes would require her to do. It's unfair that some think it is. But I assure you, if the evidence does not convict her, a new jury will acquit her. And if it is true what they say, that many of the jury wanted her not to face those charges, they will put her not guilty for them in the next go round, which happens January 27th. So, but in the meantime, Karen Reed, unfortunately, is going to have to handle another suit because Monday in Plymouth Superior Court, Paul O'Keefe, the brother of John O'Keefe, who Karen Reed is accused of backing into and leaving him in the snow to die in her vehicle on a very stormy night in Canton, Massachusetts. Okay. Well, this lawsuit is from O'Keefe is following on behalf of his family and his brother's estate, and it names Karen Reed and the Waterfall Bar and Grill and C.F. McCarthy's as defendants for the wrongful death of John O'Keefe. It's a civil suit, and it's asking for a jury trial. Now, for this is trouble for Karen because we've talked about this before. The standard for civil lawsuits in proving anything is much lower as far as evidence, and you don't need to prove anything beyond a reasonable doubt. You can use probable inference, in other words, likelihood that it happened. Okay. And she's got a few things against her here, like the fact that, well, the Waterford Bar and Grill admitted to serving her 11 drinks. And at C.F. McCarthy's, she had 1 drink and 1 shot after. All of this around midnight. Okay. And then when she was tested at I think when she went back in through the trial, we heard evidence. And I'm going to repeat a little bit of it, but it's not going to matter until the civil suit happens and what they bring forward. But as far as just like first reading everything that's going on, they may be able to say that they're all indicated in some way. And I'm sure the businesses, insurances are going to have to pay up, and there may be some consequences here because 11 drinks in one place and she left and you knew she was driving. I mean, she's not huge. It just doesn't seem reasonable to me. Okay, and just so that you know I'm not speaking out of turn, here is Massachusetts state alcohol information on what they do about certain things and what they find accessible. They, just like many places, 0.08 is the limit for driving a vehicle. Karen Reed had a blood alcohol content of 93. That's 0.093 per deciliter. Okay. 0.08 is the legal limit. So 8 hours after the accident that hit, after the accused, she's alleged to have hit him. 8 hours later, when she goes to the hospital under what they call a section 12, because she was very acting hysterical and erratic, and they wanted to make sure she was okay. And they're saying that she tested that many hours later, and they knew she was drinking prior to midnight. They had testimony from the people at the bar, from the servers, etc. That's all been entered into evidence. If it was 0.093 that many hours later, they're saying it could have been anywhere from 0.13 to 0.292 at the time of the incident, based on calculations. Now, before everybody gets in an uproar, we're clearly aware of the fact that she could have stopped drinking hours before. Maybe it was lower at the time of an accident. We don't know exactly what it was at the time of the alleged incident with her vehicle. We do know she left the bar after multiple drinks and drove. And we do know when she arrived at a certain place with John O'Keefe. We do know he got out of the vehicle. What we don't know for sure, because we don't have any video of it, is whether she actually hit him. But there is evidence that he was hit, possibly by her vehicle, in terms of a broken tail light. That tail light matching the glass, the little particles that are on his own clothes, scratches and all on him, trauma to his head, a glass on the bumper, a hair on the bumper, and now they are saying even some DNA of his on the broken tail light pieces. Okay. Now, these are all enough for a jury to infer that possibly she did back into him, but is that actual murder, which is the criminal charge? Maybe not. Manslaughter or wrongful death? A jury could get there quite easily, in my humble opinion. You see what I mean? They place her at the scene of the crime. They place her there inebriated. They've got charges already. I think it's going to be very difficult for the businesses themselves, because like she had 11 drinks in one place, goes to the other place, and they served her. And 11 drinks puts you well over. They had to be really watered down for her not to be over the limit when she walked into the other bar. Not to be what they call sloppy drunk, is where you're slurring, your eyes are a little, you know, it's, I don't know. Other legal opinions out on YouTube say it's not going to be that easy. I see this as very damaging to her. I'm kind of looking at it from a jury's perspective, and just from following the other case, and depending on the evidence, and I will put this caveat in there, depending on the evidence that they actually present in the civil case, it would be pretty easy, in my humble opinion, for a jury to actually convict all three parties of wrongful death. I mean, isn't it wrong that he's dead? Somebody backed into him and hit him. And I say that somebody backed into him and hit him because there is evidence of a broken taillight all over him and some kind of impact. And I don't really buy the story, since nobody saw him inside the house. Nobody saw him enter the house. There is no eyewitness or anything that they got beat up in the house and then dragged out. There's absolutely not a stitch of evidence except for speculation, and it makes a great story. And I'm not even going to go into the fact of why they did that. Of course, they're trying to put on a defense, and they just don't want her to be guilty. But I'd rather go to her words when she was first charged with manslaughter, when she said she didn't intend for him to be hit. Thank you. You know, when her own attorney said this is not something that was intended. This is a terrible accident and a tragedy. Basically stating that she kind of knew it, or her statement to her father in the hospital that was put on record by a hospital worker, where she said, I know I hit something. I just didn't know it was him, or I didn't know what it was. That last part, I'm not sure about the exact words. Well, she did tell her father she knew she hit something. So if you knew you hit something and you left the scene of the accident, you're kind of guilty just by that. You know, I don't really think she intended to hurt him. I think she was inebriated and she banged into him. She wasn't aware of what she was doing. That's my take on it. Okay. But that still is guilty of wrongful death. You don't have to mean to cause the death or intend to murder someone for it to be wrongful death. You caused it. Period. For those of you that like to read, I actually have the suit for you if you want to read the legal documents. But basically, they are going to be asking let me get down to the bottom part. They're also going for not only wrongful death, but emotional distress about the conspiracy that was created by the defense team with Karen Reed's assistance and other YouTubers and parties that he organized. The emotional distress that happened to the family because of all of that and what they did. And basically, the wrongful death charges are in all with you're not taking accountability. You know you did this, and everything you did afterward actually caused more harm to the family. But like I said, this is it. The accident itself happened in January of 2022. Okay. It goes into the details. It goes line by line into the details of why they think Karen Reed actually did it and why they actually feel that she could have acted at any time to help. One of the main reasons is if they knew that she hit him, if she knew that she hit something, she didn't go back and look for him right away. She says she got there at like 6 o'clock the next morning, and he actually had a body temperature of 80 degrees when John O'Keefe was brought to the hospital after the body was found, after he was intubed and trying to stay in he basically may not have died of his injuries, could have froze to death. It could have been saved. Something could have been intervened. They're really going in. They're going in hard. And this is going to actually play to a jury, in my humble opinion, because the estate is of two minors, his niece and his nephew, that he adopted and took care of when his sister died. And her sister's husband also died from a terrible disease in an accident. And then he took them in, a single parent, and took care of them, gave him a loving home. And they're going to take the stand. And so that jury is going to know that money isn't going to an institution. It's not going to a wealthy person. It is going to go to children who are deprived a home, who already have a lot of tragedy. It's going to play well, is my point. Okay. I'm trying to look at it from the jury, and well, you can just put me on record as saying it looks pretty much like it's bad news for her. You know, I'm also, quite surprised that after 11 drinks, she was served in another bar. I'm quite surprised she got 11 drinks in the first place. But, what can I say? These things happen. I don't want to police anybody's habits, but there are laws that regulate drinking establishments and things that they have to do. Anyway, the first count is going to be wrongful death. From the estate is suing them all for wrongful death. The second count is against the bars, also for the wrongful death. Count 3 is against Karen Reed. Negligent. Count 4 is negligent infliction of emotional distress, and that is going to be John O'Keefe's mother versus the last bar that served her. And all her reasons are there. John O'Keefe, in his estate, is actually going after McCafferty's also for negligent infliction of emotional distress. And actually, the brother is going against McCafferty's for serving her for negligent infliction in emotional distress. Okay. And they're going after the waterfall the same way for serving her, over serving her. Um, each plaintiff, because it is the parents and the estate and the brother all suing, it's the family suing, some individually, some separately, for different items all throughout here in how everything was handled with them. But what they have to prove is the over serving. That's going to be the one hurdle. But then, since there is actually documentation of the amount of drinks and it's been put around, it's actually just getting people to support it in there for the civil suit the same. Okay. But for Karen, they actually add the niece, Kaylee, actually put in charges against Karen Reed for negligent, reckless, and or intentional infliction of emotional distress. The niece is putting forward that the actual defense that Karen actually instituted and what she did and how people were harassed, intimidated, and what happened to her in regards to that was actually orchestrated by Karen, and that she actually did all that with unknowing or truth. She knew these people were vulnerable. She knew that they were dealing with the death. She didn't care. And she actually went forward, causing them all harm. Okay. She actually says that regardless of anything, one of her main issues is that when Karen Reed came into John O'Keefe's house after he was missing, and during when he was still out missing, that in her presence, she was obviously drunk, obviously calling people on the phone, spoke on a speakerphone to various people between 4:30 and 5 o'clock on the day that she knew that John was missing and didn't go back and find him, and he was dying in the snow. And she brings up a good point. This does not look good for Karen at all. Anyway, I hope you let me just see. It's 22 pages, but it's not too cumbersome. And actually the points are laid out in there. But as those much more legally qualified than I am, because I am not a lawyer at all, have put forward that it is going to be actually the linchpin of the whole thing is proving the inebriation and proving the fault on the two businesses that they overserved her in, with full knowledge that she was not able to drive a vehicle, and they allowed her to leave the premises with her keys. Period. Or that Karen herself should have known she shouldn't have been able to drive. And they caused the death and hardship on others because of it. They caused the death of John O'Keefe, which caused emotional pain, and further acting on in the defense of her own trial to defend herself caused and inflicted more additional pain unnecessarily on the family. And it's going to be one that could change precedent about a few things. Okay. This has been quite the case to begin with. There are the people who think that Karen Reed is being prosecuted by a group of police officers just because they don't want to be accountable for what they did. They actually are claiming corruption throughout. And you know what? A lot has come to light. People did some awful stuff. One officer is actually in jeopardy of losing his position, probably has already, based on just how he spoke about her, because she was not likable, and he really think that she did do it. And he did not act professionally in private conversations to others, not in investigative conversations. I make that distinction because although what he said was horrible, unnecessary, and I don't really think he should have, he did not do it during the investigation to people involved. He was actually talking to people privately, off hours, and etc. And I think he's entitled to his opinion. He's a human being, and he knows her. Okay, and sometimes we all say things we shouldn't say. Was it classless and distasteful? Yes. Does it affect the outcome of the investigation? Well, in one way, some are saying that he was biased, that he thought she was guilty. But I'm here to tell you that investigators are actually looking for things to what they think and feel. They don't just come in and say, oh, it could be this, it could be that. They're actually working with a scenario in their head almost all of the time. So I really don't think it prejudiced him that much. I think he was prejudiced from the beginning. He said very early on he didn't like what he was hearing, and that he really did think she was doing it as she did it. He's entitled to that opinion as an investigator, but he has to come up with actually evidence as to why he feels that way. And then the prosecution's job is to prove it to a jury. Let's just see. Hello, Wrecker. I didn't see you come in. It was nice of you to stop in. Craven says, yeah, normally you hit something and you go, what the heck was that? And you get out and look, it only to make sure you didn't mess up your car. True. Well, there are two things that interfered with that. One, the horrible storm that was going on at the time. At the time, the area was covered with snow. It was windy. There was snow. This is why the body wasn't seen for a long time. They're saying that, like, why didn't the snowplow people see? Well, when they went by, they actually helped push some snow up towards him to where it was even more difficult to see him. And, I can understand cold. Also, they were fighting. He got out of the car. She thinks she hit something. She probably just thought it was a bunch of snow. I mean, not that I'm sticking up for her. I think she's made a lot of poor choices. And I think that they could have eased the pain and suffering of everyone involved had she chosen other things. But not being able to put myself 100% in her shoes, I couldn't really say. Also, she was inebriated. I doubt, like, she was thinking clearly at all. You know? Yep. This is it. Like, I know, Liam, some people can mask their inebriation for quite a while behind a haughty attitude. Oh, did you watch some of the trial? You might have saw some of that haughty attitude. Oh. Or like Juju says, or they hit the sauce on the regular, and that makes it as well. Still, it's going to be hard to explain to a jury 11 drinks. And I do get what both of you are saying. It is true. But the law is the law. 11 is a lot. Functioning alcoholics, just like Boone. Yeah. Boone, that's another one. Yeah. That's something else. Juju says she made the choice to drink. The bar cannot monitor how much she had to drink. I do not support going after the bars. Um, that's hard. That's hard because, like, I have seen people in a bar like fall down drunk. And I think that it is because the bartenders are sober, and because we're talking about moving vehicles and keys. If they want to serve him, fine, but take his keys. Like, I think that actually endangers other people, and at certain times people's privacy or free will need to be negotiated a little bit. I'm not living here on the shore, and well, I am biased because I do have personal things in my past where young people people died from drunk drivers, and it's really hard. It's really hard to negotiate the bar's right to serve somebody to the limit that they cannot function and to make a profit doing that when you're dealing with the other side of it. And the other side of it is that that person got into a vehicle. And the other side of it is that person is not in their right mind. And that is where the bar comes in, is to prevent those things. Because if you know you're serving someone to where they're not functioning with clarity, then proper decisions aren't being made. And somebody needs to step in because harm is going to be done. And I know that's a tough one. And I know there's a lot of people that aren't going to agree with me, and that's fine. We all come from it from a different way. But these laws are in every state for a reason. And they have insurance for it too. And they have requirements and training for bartenders. It's not the way it was where anybody can do. A bar will actually suffer from these kinds of cases, and these two bars will suffer from this civil suit. They could lose their insurance, or their insurance could fight for them. And the insurance is on the hook for it for sure. Their livelihood as being a functioning business afterward. But based on what we saw in the other Karen Reed case, the criminal case, I'm sure that people will be divided in both ways. In the outcome, well, it's up for anybody right now. I think a jury is actually going to side and award some money to the family. I do. But it's because of what I've seen before. And I do admit to being biased uh, on that situation. I could just see with the lower standard, a jury getting there a little easier. And once they get to the fact that she may have hit or that she was inebriated, that's going to bring the other businesses in as liable. You know. Mm, they don't always, but I know here from personal experience, Juju says, how does a bar know how I got there or how I'm going home? Exactly. That's why many of them will ask, okay, especially with the drinks, and they have to pay attention. And that's why they in here on the shore where I live, most of the bars have bouncers and people that are watching and like in the crowd, and they are actually looking for overserved. They don't want anything to happen because once it gets like if they cause any kind of accident and they come up inebriated and they ask where they were, that place gets named. So they all do have some kind of mechanisms, even in casualing, just take having their bartenders pay attention to the crowd and what's going on. And I know that it is a difficult thing to actually maneuver, but the risk is there. And once you're inebriated, it's like they say, well, you're not in your right mind, so you can't be held accountable for all of this. But yes, you can. And so why can't the people around you that knew you weren't in your right mind anymore help? Okay. I have seen actually people with drunk people getting named in lawsuits because they didn't offer to drive them home, call them a cab. Most bars will call you an Uber free. In most companies, the Ubers here in ours, like they have a system to where they want to protect people. They will. Certain you can call and get that person a ride home. Um, it's a matter of asking questions and not knowing for sure, but there is some responsibility there. And I know it's a hard line to cross. And, I do. I blame the drunk too. It is definitely the drunk alone, but there has to be some way to protect people. And I think that's what these laws are trying to do. They're not trying to prosecute the bars, they're trying to prevent the bars from being prosecuted. They're giving the bars a means to prevent themselves from being named in the suits that somebody else is causing. I get that. I totally get that. Okay. But look what happened in the Mallory Beach case. You don't think that the bar that served underage kids that caused a boating accident that cost somebody else's life should have been named? when they broke the law. The law states that a bar cannot overserve an individual in many states. So there has to be a way to mechanism. That's the law. It already exists, Juju. So they are culpable, you know. I've been at the bar before the chief of police was hammered and drove right on home. I tried to stop him, but he's the chief of police. I get it. I get it. It's not fair, and it does put an undue burden on the people that are trying to do the right thing. I get that. Well, what they're trying to do is save lives and not make it so easy. When you look at the statistics of people who died from drunk drivers before and after the laws were instituted, you'll see that they do have some success. Okay. And we're not really trying to penalize the bar. We're asking for reasonableness. Okay. Yes, it is a burden, but they're the ones making the money on it. So they have to put a little bit money in it to actually make sure that they're doing everything within the guidelines of legalities. Okay. It stinks. I agree with you. It does put a burden on them that is not their responsibility. They're not driving the vehicles. Okay. But if they can help prevent them person from getting in that vehicle or getting to that state, that's thing. Okay. Um, I could use some other harsher examples, but I don't really want to go there because I do understand the other side of it. I really do. And I'm just, I'm okay with them having some responsibility because they are the ones with the clear minds in the serving of the alcohol. And and I do know that it is the drunk's responsibility when driving a vehicle. And the majority of it is definitely right on them. Everything else is just trying to be reasonably preventive, okay, and just kind of like see something, say something, you know. Um, I would not want to see somebody so sloppy drunk and just say it's none of my business if I saw them getting in a car. Yes, I am that asshole. I'm going to call in your plate. I may even ask for your keys. I may even go inside the facility and tell the bouncer he dropped his keys 5 times and he can't even open the car door. He cannot drive, and try to get someone else involved because I know what happens when you don't. So there's two sides. You know, I'm not trying to be dramatic about it. I'm just trying to explain why I have a somewhat biased opinion in regards to it, and I support those laws. And I have seen a decrease in my state alone in the amount of people that have died from drunk driving because of how harsh we are about it. It is actually illegal to be drunk in a licensed establishment in the UK. The exact definition isn't given. It is up to us to make the call. But who is providing every bar with enough breathalyzers? Exactly, Liam. And you have a unique position because you're in what you do for a living, you are around it all the time. As one of those sober people actually being responsible for, is someone too drunk to be able to function? Yeah. And it is it's a harsh burden, and I agree, but it's also part of running that kind of business. And there's insurance for it, and there's programs for it. In the UK, maybe a little bit different here in the United States. But making a hard limit is not practical, but supporting staff in their decision to stop serving should be part of the management culture. Put it before profits. Exactly. And that is what these laws here in America actually do. That, first of all, the actual server, if a server said that a customer was too inebriated and said that they shouldn't be served anymore, and somebody stepped in and served them anyway, that server would actually have a case against the bar for allowing something like that to happen against the legal laws of the state that they are licensed. Okay. You have to put the culture of safety and reasonableness above profits. Absolutely. And that's why the statement, I don't think they should go after the bars. I can't really get behind 100%. I think they should go after the bars reasonably. I think Karen Reed having 11 drinks, going into another bar and having another drink. I mean, look at the weather alone. Okay. The woman should not have been driving. But I do realize that in a culture like that, especially in that area, from what I saw, people are actually like, we're drinking like regularly all the time. Okay. Um, it would vary. I can understand the plight of the bars in trying to manage that culture. Okay, because it's a little more of an inebriated culture to begin with. Um, in that situation. And unfortunately, a tragedy happened, and the lawsuits around it abound, right? So, yeah, I get that, Liam. Here we do too. It's based on the culture that the actual facility, the actual establishment, uh, institutes. It's actually in where they're. Most of them want to stay in business, okay, especially on the shore. They make their money all summer long. Part of it is eating and drinking, and you want people drinking into the wee hours of the night when the entertainment is there. But it has to be like, you have to have additional staff, and that's why here on the shore, which is full of tourists and people wanting to have a good time, and they're probably overindulging, but we populate that actual crowds with paid people and observers to help the servers understand, so that when somebody who's completely inebriated gives their money to somebody else to go up to the bar to drive the drink, they can intervene when that drink comes back and is handed to that person. They are actually, part of their job would be to take that drink and say, "Are you driving? Because if you give me my key, if you give me your keys, I will give you this drink." And it's perfectly legal. Yes. It's not welcome, and it can cause problems. And, we've had plenty of tussles in all of these places, especially the ones up on the beach. But you know what I'm saying. It's like, it's a kind of opposition like you're at being responsible, being the sober one. Can you imagine that? Like, they just don't get it, right, Juju? And that's where the burden does get put on the reasonable person, like, right? And then I hope that you actually were backed up with not selling it by management, because that's crazy. If you had a man drive his vehicle into the side of a building, and then he comes in and he wants more alcohol, and you're like, no, okay, and they're going like, why, and probably making a fuss. It is awkward and horrible, and you shouldn't be put in that situation. But we have to remember, we're dealing with people that are not reasonable. They're not within their, because they are already inebriated, they are not actually functioning at their normal level, so to speak. I mean, maybe they are. Maybe he's an asshole anyway, and a jerk, and he doesn't care about anybody else. Who knows? But it does put it on the burden. The burden is on those responsible, sober people around. You know. For the record, he also dropped the 6-pack in the middle of the store. Good. See, karma. I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad. I hope it like all spilt all over the place and opened up, and he didn't get any, and he didn't have enough money for another one, because like, they may have saved somebody's life. You know. Yeah, it's unfortunate, Craven. You know that some management is like that, and I feel for everyone. But on that, I do. Besides the issue of the law about the bars, it is going to be an interesting civil case, because just proving that she was responsible for the death with the evidence that was already presented is going to be a little bit different standard. And then I'm wondering if this case happens faster. Like, her retrial is going to be January 27th. I doubt that this civil suit will come to trial before then. But will the outcome of January 27th's trial have any effect on it? Because they are accusing her of much more than just the deed. They are accusing her of going forward and causing emotional distress, and that several of her actions after the event were directly meant to harm them. It's a read. Juju, you and I are on the same page with that. Juju said she's toast in the civil case. It is, because like they were gonna put those kids up there. Yeah, they're gonna put up like how much she drank. And it's gonna be hard to fight against. Seriously. Now, intent. I don't. I really struggle with intent. I do not think she intended for the events to happen the way they did that night. But they did, and I think she's responsible for all the decisions that she made afterwards, and some of them were pretty bad. So, um, yeah, that's right. Juju being smart here with the legal stuff. They probably cannot depose her until after the retrial in a civil case. She doesn't have the Fifth Amendment rights. That is true. That is true. Unless they really want to F with her, and then she would and could incriminate herself. It could be, it would have to be voluntarily. I'm sure that they could actually say that they want her defense could actually, she could actually file a motion to delay it till after the trial, which I think would be wise in her case. I don't really expect anything to happen with this until her retrial in January for the criminal charges, which stand at all three right now. That was denied to drop the other two. That order came out a few weeks ago, and we had already talked about that. But yeah, yeah. If she actually gave a statement in the civil trade, they could bring it into, they could actually try to actually but there is actually some things that prevent you from self-incriminating statements and things like that. It would be a battle, but they could try to get it into the trial, I'm sure, Juju, and I'm sure they would want to, but I don't think she'll be giving much of a statement until after. I don't think a lawyer would advise it. I think they would try really hard to delay it to after, in all fairness. Yeah, exactly. Because anything she says could incriminate herself on any deal that she makes in the civil case in the meantime, which is why I don't really see anything happening until after January, to be honest. I'm sure a judge would, in all fairness to both sides, would delay it, would absolutely delay a deposition in that until after. Um, it just doesn't seem reasonable, right? I mean, we're not even lawyers, any of us here, and it just doesn't seem reasonable to us. But I will check into it a little bit further. But that is definitely where I'm at with that. And on that, I'm going to close it up before I hit the 2 hour mark. Thank you all for coming late and staying, even though these were hard ones to talk about. And, it's not easy to talk about, relations without consent, and or the the tragic demise of someone due to a possible inebriated accident. These aren't easy things to talk about, and I'm glad you guys are so patient with both sides of the situation, and that you all feel comfortable enough to say how you feel. That means a lot to me. That you give your opinions and you're willing to do both sides of it. And you give me the grace to have my own too. But in both cases, we will have to see what legally transpires. With Karen Reed, we're not going to know on the civil case for a while, but we will add it to the Karen Reed files that we are tracking. And if anything else happens before January 27th in any of the hearings, of course, I will come back with that. In regards to Andrew Tate, there's quite a few things to follow there. The judge there has 60 days to decide if the second charges, if there's enough there to actually go through the process of judicial verification, which is where they go through all of the evidence, okay, and move it forward. They also, the prosecutors have appealed that Andrew Tate is on house arrest and that Tristan's on judicial, and that everybody else is not in jail either. And they actually, because of the other violation, the witness tampering, and perhaps money laundering that was going on. I don't know if the money laundering is part of what's going on in 2023 and 2024 after the charges when they were first arrested. Uh, But the prosecution is a good case there. If that is actually, there's enough evidence there, they could end up back in jail. So we'll be watching on that. I'm sure that's not where they want to go. Thanks so much, Doug. Doug, that's such a great compliment. Thank you. And I'm so glad to see you here. It's been a while. I hope you're doing well, sir. I really do. And Juju's last comment. The Tates are worthless and disgusting. You are caught up, Mousy. was that what you were like bringing her up to date on the Tate case? You're too much, Juju. Mousy, I hope you catch the replay. Thank you so much for checking back in. Thank you, everybody, all of my mods, everybody who's listening, everybody who listens later. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you have any questions about either of the two cases we talked about tonight, Tate and Karen Reed, the Tate Brothers and Karen Reed, for whichever cases they were, or hit the back of the comment section. I do answer comments every day. Okay. And if you have anything, or if there's other things you want to talk about, go right ahead and hit the back of a video. Not only does it help the algorithm, but it lets me know that, there's things you want to talk about and there's questions that need to be asked. It helps me, know if I did a good job or not. Like if there's questions unanswered, I want you to get the answers. Okay. We want to discuss it. That's what this is all about. We want to get you the information. So on that, I'll be adding all of the other stuff that I put into the chat onto the description, because the only thing there right now is the playlist. But have a good night, everybody. Thanks for being here. And I will see you towards the end of the week.